Hey there, everyone, and welcome to the 29th episode of the Flying RuNR Podcast. On this episode, we feature yet another inspirational six-star story. Hayden Harbud achieved his six-star medal after completing the New York Marathon last November. Now, you may know Hayden as one of the regular co-hosts of the Long Run Podcast and a vital member of the Fordy Runs community, the largest running club and community in the UK, a feat that's been achieved from their inception back in 2017. An incredible story. But who would have thought that running his first marathon, the London Marathon, dressed as a panda would ignite his desire and commitment to achieve the 6 world majors? We talk about his journey, of course. We talk about how the Fordy Runs community started, and we get a vibe on why it's so special and why it's been so successful, this community-based organization. I say it every week, but this is certainly not an episode to miss. So certainly not an episode to miss. So are you ready to run? Let's go.
Welcome to the thrilling world of the Flying RuNR, brought to you by the Marathon Mates.
Welcome back to the Flying RuNR Podcast. And on the completion of the New York Marathon in 2023, our special guest today completed his 6-star journey. You may know him from Instagram as Running with Hayden or the familiar voice on the Long Run Podcast. Please welcome Hayden Harbud to the Flying RuNR Podcast. How are you, Hayden?
Yeah, very well. I was about to say good evening because it's evening over here in the UK, but I'm thinking it's morning for you guys.
Yes, it's morning, and normally Tim and Tara are doing a long run at this particular stage of the day, but not today. They got it done early so that they could be here for the interview. So that's a positive thing as well. So Hayden, I'm going to start, and we're just going to rotate through some questions. So on the Long Run Podcast, people, and I'm a big fan. I'm not just an occasional listener. I listen to the podcast and also the bite size on the Monday night or the Tuesday morning as it is here. But on the Long Run Podcast, people might not really know who Hayden is because there's a couple of different personas that Fordy seems to talk about you. You depending on which episode, you could be a long lost member of a boy band. You could be this tycoon that's got a mansion in Florida and you travel everywhere by helicopter. So let's kick off by just finding out who is the real Hayden Harbud.
Well, I'm certainly not any of them, so I could put your mind at ease there. I'm basically whatever Chris Ford thinks he wants to come up with 5 minutes before the program, and I just take it and I just take it on. That's obviously what I am. But no, I was never in a boy band. I don't have a mansion. I don't travel by helicopter. I do have a house in Florida, so some bits are true. And I'm not under 5 foot, which he seems to like. Tell everyone. I'm a very healthy 5'10".
Only 5'10".
That is me, and I say everyone. I get the question a lot when I meet people, and they say, actually going back to the height, people say, "Oh, I thought you'd be shorter than that." I've listened to the stupid comments that he comes out with on a Long Run show, but it's all for fun, and I take it all.
That's right.
If you can't take the mickey out of your friends, what's the point?
Exactly that. And that's what the Long Run show, we sort of based a lot of the podcasts around that, the dynamics between friendships and the fun we have and the laughs and jokes, rather than having it all serious and all sort of running focused. And it seems to have worked. So I'm pretty sure it will carry on taking the mickey out of me for a long time.
That's right. Tony takes the mickey out of Tim all the time too. So it's pretty similar on this one.
Seems to work.
Hayden, how long have you been running for? And I guess more importantly, when did you get into running and why?
So I used to play a lot of football, soccer. I'm not sure what you
Soccer.
guys.
Yep.
Soccer, right, there you go. I used to play a lot of
Different.
soccer, and then I got to the age of, I started getting to the age of 40 and realizing that I couldn't do it anymore. I couldn't keep up with the youngsters, and it becomes frustrating. So I was always looking for something else to do. I've always been fit. I wanted to keep fit and healthy. We had my middle boy started going to junior park run with my wife, the 2K, and I went along to watch and was quite impressed. And he started to do really well and ended up progressing to the full 5K with my wife. And again, I went down to watch, and I'm not very good at watching. I like to participate and get involved. And I was there watching, thinking I'd like to give this a go. So one day I gave it a go and come in at a sort of reasonable time. I sort of had the fitness base there from the football, and I just thought I'd do that again and try and beat that time, and kept going. And this was back in about 2017. So I just kept going at the park runs, and then same as a lot of people's stories. Then you try and take on a 10K, and then you do that, and if I'll do a half marathon, then the marathon opportunity comes, and before you know it, you're just hooked. You're doing everything.
That's Tim and I, exactly. We started running exactly the same way, park run, and then it was like, oh, I think we can go further, and did exactly the same thing as you. So
park run has a lot to blame for.
It's true. It's true, but that's why park run's there, isn't it? That's exactly what park run has done so successfully. That's why it's such a worldwide phenomenon. It's incredible to have got so many people. Some that I was with people today at park run, at Bushy Park Run, and 3 or 4 years ago, just even walking 5K was difficult. And now today they're just absolutely just doing 10Ks, half marathons, and planning for marathons. It's unbelievable.
So were you at Bushy today, were you, Hayden?
I was, yes, this morning. Yeah, it was very busy. I think there's only 1,600 on there today.
Wow. Just a nice easy one for you.
Yeah, that's the only one we've done, and it's a phenomenal course. It's the only one in the UK we've done, but phenomenal course, and running around past the old cricket pitches there, and then round with the deer in the park, and then you go up and down through the oak trees. It's just a fantastic run, that one.
Yeah, I'm actually quite lucky. So I literally live about, it's about a 10-minute drive from Bushy. So today I actually back on the long runs at the moment. So I run there sort of a diverted route. So got a bit of a long run in beforehand, and then carried on with the park run afterwards. Yeah, we're quite lucky to have that one nearby. It's a fantastic park run.
It's also the home of park run. That's where park run started 20 years ago this year.
20 years ago this year, and we worked out this year in August they're going to hit 1,000 park runs. Obviously, they're the first, so it'd be the first park run to hit 1,000 events. So that's going to be a big one.
Absolutely, and it is. I know Tim and I, the park run we go to, and we're run directors at Bunyaville, which is a little trail park run. We get about 70 to 80 people most weeks. So for us to hit Bushy Park Run, it was like entering a race, like the funnel at the end and everything. It was like, oh my goodness, what's happening here? It's like, for a free event, I love park run. I think Paulson Hewitt has really done an amazing job there.
Yeah, we're talking about it today. It's absolutely amazing, and you hit the nail on the head with the atmosphere at Bushy, and that's so much why I've liked it, because it does give you that race day feeling and that race day preparation. Because a lot of people get into running and they get a bit anxious about turning up at big races with big crowds. Go to Bushy Park Run, within 2 or 3 of those, you're going to feel absolutely just like you're at any big race. So it's brilliant. It's absolutely brilliant.
I guess was park run one of the reasons why you wanted to do your 6-star journey? Was that like, you were in that race sort of environment, or was it people from park run that got you into it, or was it? Yeah,
no, it was mainly I'm not sure about you guys out there, but in the UK, I find anyone that likes a bit of sport or any sort of fitness, London Marathon is massive over here. Yeah. Even for people who don't particularly run, and you get a lot of people that have never run think, do you know what, I'd like to do London Marathon. And I've always had that in me since I was very, very young. I used to go up and watch it, and there's so much emotion around it. And I've always thought one day I'm going to run this. And I got the opportunity. I was doing the park runs at the time, but I had an opportunity to run London Marathon for a great charity. And I went and done that. And that was almost like, once I completed that, one of my friends said to me, you do realize that they've got these 6 races all around the world. And if you get all 6, you get this nice big medal. Well, I googled it straight away. I looked at the medal and I thought, wow. So that was the main reason why I wanted to go and do this. It did all start at London, and it actually started at London. I completed London first all, completely dressed in a complete panda outfit.
Oh wow!
I was running for prostate cancer, and I was the prostate panda. It had the complete sort of big head, and it was really hard work, but got so much love and support on the course. It was absolutely amazing. But that was the start of the big race journey.
Well, I don't think I've heard that mentioned on the Long Run podcast. So running as a panda for prostate cancer. So that's pretty special. That's very special. And, you know, we've all run London. We ran London in 2022 when it was in October, and just loved the course and loved the crowds. And of course, New York for you was your final major. And the crowds at New York are amazing. And finishing the 6-star with New York must have been really, really special. So let's give you the opportunity to give a rundown of your journey and what it looked like and what you felt about each of the events.
Yeah, so London was my first, and being a home race, it was always going to be special. And it was easy logistically wise. Obviously, we just jump on a train in the morning. I love London, but it was my first marathon, and I thought nothing will ever beat that because of the crowds and the atmosphere, and it was fantastic. So then when I started the journey, my next one was Berlin. Went out to Berlin and enjoyed the idea of having sort of like, it was my first race abroad. So loved the idea of that, and that felt absolutely brilliant. And got to Berlin, I was in good shape in Berlin, but I had Chicago. I was already got into Chicago 2 weeks later, and I had it in my mind that Chicago I was going to have a real good go at. So I went and ran Berlin really easy and tried to keep it sort of like as a long, easy run 2 weeks before. And thinking back now, that was probably a bit of a mistake. I took it easy. I absolutely enjoyed it all, but I didn't think the course was nowhere near as good as London. The support was okay, but it was nothing like London. and then 2 weeks later, we went out to Chicago, and I was just blown away. I just thought, I'd never been to Chicago before, and I just thought everything about the city was absolutely just amazing. We'd done the bobble hat run, the 5K run the day before, and that just set up the whole weekend. That was just so good. And race day, everything about it was just brilliant. It was just a nice flat course. The weather was perfect. It was just, the crowds were just amazing. It wasn't my best performance. It's probably one of my lesser ones. Time-wise, it was okay, but I finished feeling really heavy-legged and realising that 2 marathons in 2 weeks it's just something I'll just don't whatever I do again. It's just wasn't a good idea. But then I say by then I was halfway. That's 3 of them down, and then the next one on the journey was going back, give a bit of perspective. London I ran for charity. Berlin, I went for a sports company. In Chicago, I got in the ballot. And just before Chicago, luckily, I got in the ballot for Tokyo, as did my wife. We both luckily got in the ballot. Wow, this is an opportunity. Yep, same one last year. This is an opportunity. We've got to do this. You know, it was actually meant to be out in Florida running one of the dopey challenge, the Princess race, where you do the 5K, 10K and half. But Tokyo was sort of the next weekend, so we sacked off the Disney one. I thought, let's just get this Tokyo one done. Tokyo itself was big culture shock. It's the furthest east I've ever gone. I like the place. Thought the place was great. The marathon itself was just after COVID, where you know yourself, Tim. So it was face masks everywhere, even at the start line. So yeah, it almost put me on a back foot. I was always a little bit anxious about it. It was a long journey, 14 hours for us. But the course was a lot of out and backs. Yeah, it was good in the fact you get to see other people coming the other way. That's fun. But occasionally, and I remember the bit I'm not sure if it sticks in your memory, it does mine. I think I got to about 20 miles, and there's people coming the other way and turning to go towards the finish line. Yeah. And they're sending you out, and you know you're going out for at least 3 or 4 miles to come all the way back.
Yep, 5K out, 5K back. Yep. Yeah. Yep, remember that well. Yeah. Just after Ginza.
Yeah, that's right. And that was a bit demoralising. I didn't have as much of a good feeling. The finish line I thought was really poor. I didn't get that feeling going across the finish line thinking I'm at a world major, and to let it down, just to really put the buoy in, I thought the medal was terrible in comparison. It was a terrible medal.
Not a favourite.
No, definitely not a favourite. But I did get on that plane coming home thinking, that's a job done. I'm glad that's done. Almost felt I wanted to get that one done. By then I'd already qualified for Boston at Edinburgh Marathon over here. I run a Boston qualifying time. So I knew I was going to Boston already, literally 2 months late. Well, about 5-6 weeks later. And that was just an absolutely incredible experience. The whole of Boston is just trying to explain to people who aren't runners. Boston is just everything about it on that weekend was just about running. I went to various shakeout runs and the expo, going down to the start line, seeing the dogs lined up. Everything about it was just absolutely incredible. And I'll never ever forget what that was like. The weather was terrible on the day, and the course is really hard. I thought it was really difficult. But again, come away from that thinking that's Boston done. It was just New York left. So for New York, I went with a sports company again because I'd already booked it in advance. I didn't want to take a chance. I thought I really want to get these done this year. And that was November just gone. And loved New York. I thought the crowds were just insane on a different level altogether. I literally couldn't even hear myself think. There was times where I thought I needed a bit of space almost. It was that loud. The course is difficult. There's a lot of hills in that course, and maybe I went out a bit too fast. But ultimately, I got to a point, I think I got to about 20 miles and just thought, I just want to sort of take this home now, just get the 6 stars and get done. And I had a lot of, so much emotion because it was been built up for so long. And there were so many people giving me so much support. Just thought, I just need to get this done. And there's so much emotion. I think that affected the race, but ultimately crossed the line and got the 6 stars, and that was the journey.
All right. So I've done a little bit of digging into the 6-star Hall of Fame as well, Hayden, just so you know. So
something Tony always does for our guests.
Yeah. I don't know how accurate it is, but anyway, we'll see. At the end of New York, there were 1,239 people from the UK that have achieved their gold 6-star. Prior to New York, there was 1,202. So 37 UK people achieved their 6-star during New York. And out of that 37th, you came 26 based on your time. So in my recollection and in my research, you were the 1,228th person from the UK to get their 6-star. When it comes to the male side of the population, you were number 808, and so the 808th person, male person from the UK to get the 6-star. So, and I reckon we should start a little movement where we all put our little numbers on running shirts or something, like they do with Test cricket and whatnot, where I was the 808. So in Australia, we're not that high. So our numbers are going to be a little bit lower when we get ours done. And can I just talk a little bit about your times? Because you've been pretty consistent around the 6 stars, Hayden. So London was 3:55, and if you did that in a Panda suit, my God, can I tell you that's a pretty good. But Berlin 3:35, Chicago 3:27, Boston 3:31. I ran Boston this year, and can I tell you, it just killed me. It broke me.
Me too.
And I was a blubbering mess at about 18K, and that was before the hills. Tokyo was 3:32, so not bad for a bludger of a course. And then New York, you finished at 3:36, so real consistency there, right across.
Yeah, it was, and this is what I've always said before. And ironically, my outside of the majors, I've only done 2 other marathons, and both of them were quite a bit faster. I've run a 3:17 at Edinburgh and a 3:22 at Boston, UK. So I've always run at least 10 minutes, nearly 10 to 15 minutes slower at the majors. It's just the way it's always felt.
You put that down to the crowds?
Yeah, it could be that. I think I was in better shape when I run the other marathons, and I had London in between with the Panda, so that was almost like discounted that one. But I've just always come up a little bit. I was not been unlucky. It's my own fault. I said Berlin. I went out there, and I think Berlin was it 3:33, 3:35, and I went out there, and I was trying to take that easy, so make it so that Chicago would be better. But it felt really easy. But I come to Chicago and I just had nothing in me at all. So I wanted to go a lot faster than I could have. But I think by the time I got to New York, I honestly had. I know people say all this all the time. It doesn't matter about times, but deep down, a lot of people, you want to get a time. I went to New York thinking I want to finish on a high about 20 miles. I was like, no, it's happen. So I just wanted to make sure I got over that finish line.
Yeah, there's no cut off there, so you're okay.
Yeah.
So out of all the many races you've done, including the majors, what would be your overall favorite running event that you've done?
See, most people ask just about the majors favorite one, and when you include everything, to be honest, honestly, it's really difficult. I don't know if any of you guys have done it. I absolutely love the Great North Run. The Great North Run
is that the one that's owned by the London Marathon now, isn't it?
No. So it's a Great North series. So it's the biggest half marathon in the world, and it's up in Newcastle. And I think this year they had 55,000 there.
Yeah,
for a half marathon, it's incredible. Absolutely,
it's on my bucket list, Hayden. So that's one thing that I want to do. So
that's a great run, but I can't discount the fact of the world majors. And there's something about Boston has just always been sort of the pinnacle for me. It's where I've always wanted to go to. So that has to be up there. New York was special because I got the 6 stars. But for me, there's something about Chicago that I got it. I just get it. I had it 2 years ago. I run it again this 2023, and I'm actually going to run it again this year, 2024. I've got in the ballot, so
we'll be
there. Do it again.
Yeah, we'll be in Chicago there as well. So, yeah.
Brilliant.
Excellent.
Honestly, it's incredible. I love Chicago. Brilliant marathon. Brilliant.
Can't wait for it.
Yeah, and you got to love the 5K, the bobblehead run. So that in itself is enough reason to go to Chicago just quietly. So
it's the most expensive 5K in the world, I think, ever. So it's good race.
Especially compared to park run when you're used to doing them for free.
Yeah, exactly.
Flying over and doing the Dopey Challenge and the 5K at the Dopey Challenge and adding up all the costs just to do the 5K there.
That
was just too much.
The Dopey Challenge is a different level altogether, isn't it?
But it's a great race.
Did you see actually overnight? Did you see they've cut the half marathon back to only 7 miles?
Yeah, it was flooded, wasn't it, or something?
No, lightning and rain. Yeah,
it was lightning. Wow. Yeah, and they say they've got the full marathon tomorrow, so
yeah, hopefully they get the full distance in.
Yeah.
So you were saying on Boston and New York, and I guess with Chicago as well, that you were finding it a little bit tough at around that 20-mile mark. How do you keep yourself going and motivated to keep going? Obviously, you want to finish your 6 stars, but what goes through your head at that time to make you go, I'm going to keep going?
Yeah, so New York probably was the reward at the end, the 6 stars, knowing that was coming. So I did really drop down my pace and drop back and think to myself, I don't need to. And at New York, I did see quite a few people sort of laid out on the side of the road, not in a great way. And as I went along with that, that start to play in my mind as well, thinking I don't want that to be me, especially not today. So I definitely dialed down the pace. So that helped me get there. But the motivation was getting over that finish line. Boston, I still am not sure how I got through it, because it does start downhill, but it's up, down, with Tony, and literally it really trashed my quads. And I did get to about 20. I think it was Heartbreak. It wasn't Heartbreak that done me particularly, because I thought the other hills were just as bad as Heartbreak, if I'm honest with you. But Heartbreak was almost like the last one where you're really sort of struggling. And I got to the top. I actually walked. I run the first bit and I walked the rest of Heartbreak Hill. And that was almost a point where I thought to myself, I hate having to walk or anything like that. And I thought, hope I haven't given up here. I just kept telling myself, you just got to do this. I think the fact it's the first one I've been to that I wasn't with my wife as well. She's always been at all the other ones. She's completed the other ones. And I was kind of by myself. I did have a couple of friends out there, but I was by myself. And I think that kept me going. I kept thinking, I've got to do this. I'm by myself. I really need this. I just got to keep going. There was no one there I could just stop or just keep walking. I just thought, and I knew as well, it wasn't pressure, but I knew loads of people back home were watching me and following me, because part of Fordy Runs Club is loads of us in it, but not many people were lucky enough to go out to be Boston. And I was. So a lot of people sort of watching and tracking. And it's not so much pressure, but that's there and you want to get the job done. And so I think that was it. Motivation wise was just the same as ever, just crossing that line. And I did think Boston, this is a once in a lifetime. I don't think I'll ever be able to come back because I qualified with 3 minutes to spare, but you saw what happened this year with Boston qualifying. So there's a chance I'll never go back to Boston. So that was a bit of motivation for me to get over that line and get it done.
Yeah, Boston.
Sorry, I was going to say, do you think in terms of park runs, when you've got that like top of Heartbreak Hill, 10Ks to go, 2 park runs, do you sort of think that way as well?
Yeah, I don't think I've ever thought about 2 park runs. I've always think about 1 park run. And I know we've got this thing in the UK. I don't know if you guys are the same. We hate it over here when you're doing a marathon. People say only a park run to go, only a park. But it's true. But it is true.
Yeah.
And because I've done Bushy so many times, I was talking about it the other day on the long run show. Because I've done Bushy so many times, I do when I've got 5K to go. I'm thinking to myself, right, that's this corner, all right. Like you said, you get round to the woods, you get round to the pond, and I'm thinking that. And at 10K, I often think I do the same 10K route round by my house so often. And at 10K again, I'm thinking back to that point. So yeah, definitely sort of visualizing where I've got to be and what I want to do, and that absolutely helps.
Yeah, it's
I do it too.
Yeah.
What I found interesting about Boston, Hayden, was that I actually look forward to Heartbreak because I knew that there were no other hills after that. So, and you're right, those 2 or 3 before it were just killers, and then you're thinking, oh well, I've just got Heartbreak to go now, and so in some sad, sadistic sort of a way, I was looking forward to just getting Heartbreak over it, and that sign at the top that says, "Welcome, you've conquered Heartbreak," is just amazing. So
and then you got the college after that as well, haven't you? And that was something else that I've never experienced before either. The college where all the students were all there, that was just mind blowing.
The Wellesley Scream Tunnel.
Scream Tunnel. Yeah, wow, that was something else. Never had one of them before.
My wife was a bit put out at Boston with the Scream Tunnel because they were the girls were chanting out "Curly, Curly" as we're running past and missing Shaz completely. So I didn't mind that. The old ego for this old boy sort of kicked in a little bit. So.
But it takes going back to it almost takes your mind off things for even if it's 2 or 3 minutes, especially when you're starting to get to that point in the marathon where you're thinking this is getting tough now. Any sort of distraction that can take your mind off it absolutely helps, and that did definitely.
Absolutely. Now we know many people that have done the 6 stars, and the 3 people on screen with you. I complete my 6 stars in Tokyo, and then by New York at the end of the year, Tim and Tara will have completed theirs. So we know that for the many people that we know, it takes a little bit of while after getting their 6 stars to sort of adjust and reset. And for some, it's almost been a little bit of a downer because they've got their 6 star, they've worked so passionately towards it for such a period of time. How have you experienced that? And if you have, how have you dealt with that? And I guess then follows on to what are you training for next?
Yeah, absolutely spot on. I spoke to somebody who'd completed their 6 stars about the beginning of 2023. And I've always sort of known that was coming. The fact that once it's done, it's almost like, what's next? Because over the last 3 years, it's taken me 3-4 years. I've always been thinking to myself, in 6 months' time, I've got Berlin, I've got Chicago coming up, I've got Boston, and that's always been planned. And then once it's done, it is. And at first, the first 2 or 3 weeks when I had the 6 stars, that almost went away because there was so much. It was just so good. And everything, I still had really fond memories and it was just all there. But then heading into probably second week of December of last year, I think that hit me. And I realized, like, not what's next, because I've always had a plan. So there's certain challenges. There's a challenge in Europe called the Super Halves, where there's certain half marathons. It's the same sort of thing. Once you run 6, you get the separate medal. So going to sort of focus onto that. We're going out to Las Vegas in February to do Las Vegas half. It's always been on the bucket list. And we actually said this year that it was going to sort of dial things down, but it's looking absolutely bonkers what we've got on this year already. It really is. We're going out to Prague. We're doing Valencia. We're going out to Berlin, out to Chicago, Las Vegas. It's going to be absolutely mental this year. But yeah, no, it's an absolute thing. I don't know if it's related just to 6 stars. Probably most things in life, you work so hard to get something, and then when you've got it, it's like, right, what's next? And yeah, it's definitely a difficult thing. It's almost a kind of marathon blues, I suppose. Everyone knows once you've done one marathon, you've trained for that 16 weeks. The week afterwards, and you're outside of a plan. It is a thing, the marathon blues, isn't it? And people are like,
Very much so. So in Australia here, we're all excited about Sydney and the potential for Sydney to be the next World Marathon Major, the 7th star. If that happens in 2025, is that something you'd be interested in jumping on a plane in 2025 and coming on down for?
Absolutely, 100%. Yes. As people have said to me, it's almost like, oh, unlucky, they're going to get a 7-star. I'm like, that's not unlucky. That's brilliant. It's another one to do. Well, I say Tokyo was the furthest east I'd ever travelled. So crack on and go all the way over to Australia. My wife's not too happy about it, the journey, but by then, hopefully, she'll have her 6 stars. So she'll be looking for the 7th as well. So, yeah, definitely, absolutely bring it on. Definitely. If I can get in.
Yeah, well, we'll all be there hopefully as well. So we'll make sure that we show you around and show you a good time. So
yeah, you probably have an easier chance of getting in than us because you can buy your way in through a travel agent. We'll won't have that.
Yeah, but I think it depends on. I don't think any of the travel agents are sort of like they're a bit worried about placing them because I think at the moment I don't know how accurate I am. What is the capacity at the moment in Sydney? Is 15,000 at the moment?
They had 17,000. Yeah.
But only 13,000 finished. But the reality is, I think they've designed the course to be able to handle major numbers, so it has room to grow and has increased capacity there. But it'll be interesting in that first year, 2025. Fingers crossed. How many they get with the internationals all coming out for it? Because at the moment, everyone's sort of holding back, going, "I'll wait till it's a 7th star."
Yeah, so we was at the expo for New York, and they were at the Sydney Marathon. They're promoting it for 2024 and saying if you run 2024, we'll give you a guaranteed place for 2025.
Oh wow!
Hopefully, if it's a major, so it's almost like a gamble you take. If it was going to be a world major, run it next year, and you're definitely going to get in. But obviously, from where we are in the UK, getting over there, yeah, it's a long way anyway. But yeah, it's not going to be. That's the thing with the travel company. The travel company to do Tokyo, we were lucky to get in the ballot, but we got friends that don't have a travel company. It's about £3,500 UK pounds, and that's without the flight. So all in all, you're looking at about 4,500 before any other sort of money just to go and run a race. So Sydney, God knows how much I charge for that, but it's not going to be cheap.
You get £2.50 to $1 Australian dollar, so it will be a lot better for you when you're here.
It's just getting there.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
With the Fordy Runs community, I don't really know a lot about it. I mean, Tim listens to the podcast, Tony listens to the podcast. It's weird. I know I'm a host of a podcast. I don't really listen to podcasts. I'm a music person when I'm running, and I drive 7 kilometers to work, so I don't have time for podcasts. Tell me about the Fordy community. Tell me about the success of it, because it's the largest running group in the UK. Is that right?
Yeah. So the podcast is actually, it's almost a bit fragmented. So there's different sides to it. So there's almost like I suppose you can call a commercial side and non-commercial side. And on the commercial side is the long run show as part of the podcast. Chris Ford has his own YouTube channel. It's very successful. And he has his Instagram and all that side of things. Whereas on the other side of it, non-commercial, is the running club and the community. So even though they all come under the same brand and they are Fordy Runs, and Chris Ford started them all from the start, they are kind of separate institutions. So Chris Ford started the running club. He gets anxiety, and he went to a London marathon, and he was sitting in the park, Greenwich Park, before the start by himself, sitting down, really anxious. And he looked around and he saw, it's just 2017, I believe, and he saw loads of other people doing exactly the same. And he thought, this is bonkers. So after the London Marathon, he started, I think he put a post out on a Facebook group saying, who else is running this race? It'd be good to meet up, even if we don't know each other, just to relax anxieties. And literally that was a starting point. And from there, it's gone from there to like the reach now, and the membership and everything is just incredible. So there's around about 600 odd affiliated runners. It says the biggest in the UK. We've branched down. We've got like these physical running clubs, like satellite groups all over the UK. People come together and meet, and the community element of it is just, it's unbelievable. There's just so much within it. And everyone sort of knows each other, even though it's got like, I think the Facebook page is on like 14,000 members, but everyone sort of like knows different things about each other, and they feed into each other. So you get people from the Facebook community, they listen to the podcast, they come on the podcast as guests. So it's all sort of a mix, and it all does work together, but there are separate elements to it. And obviously Chris has been there at the forefront, all of them.
And that's the good thing about the running community. We all are very inclusive of each other. It doesn't matter about the speed that you run at. Like, I've got a lot of friends that will run like sub 3 hour marathons. And then there's me who will run a 5 hour marathon. And we've got people that are around the 7 hour marathoners. And we're all inclusive of each other. We don't think something bad about anybody else because of the speed that you run at or anything like that. It's just an inclusive thing. And I'm assuming that Fordy Runs is exactly the same, like, you know, your little community.
Yeah, well, this is what, again,
big community.
Yeah, but this is what it's all founded on as well. Our actual sort of like logo, hashtag, whatever it is, everyday runner. We are for the everyday runner. So in the UK, a lot of running clubs, you pay for this club, you turn up at the club, you have to do these sessions every week, and you wear the club top. Whereas with Fordy Runs, there's none of that at all. There is running tops. We have got stuff that people can wear and buy. There's no compulsory thing for that. We don't have structured sessions every week where you say, if you don't turn up, you know, you're out. We certainly don't worry about speed or anything like that at all. Again, throughout the community, we've got people that are walking 5Ks. We've got people that are, there's a few of our satellite leaders, we're actually taking couch to 5K lessons for people. So we've got people just walking their way to 5K. Whereas we've got other people. We've got a guy in the community who can run a sub 2:30 marathon. It's like it's a complete broad range, and it literally is for everyone. We've never ever wanted the idea. There's so many people out there that would never ever want to join a running club because they think they don't fit in, or they don't feel they're fast enough, or they don't feel they've got the right kit, or they've got the right body shape. So for us, it's just like, no, this is open to everyone and everything. So when we do the satellite clubs, we try to arrange sessions within an environment where it doesn't matter if you're super fast or you want to walk. You can still do the session. You can still be involved, and you're still with everyone else. And afterwards, we'll all have a cup of tea and a bit of cake. So everyone.
I love that. That's great. Yeah.
That sounds so English, doesn't it? A cup of tea and a piece of cake. So
we would go for a beer and a pie or something.
Yeah, a beer and chips is also very English, I would imagine as well. So, I actually had the pleasure of meeting Fordy at Berlin, where my wife and I did the shakeout run with the community, and he's certainly a very energetic bundle of human, an energetic bundle of human, and he seemed to know everyone in the group. So you can just imagine the inclusivity. And do you have a specific role within the community? Is there something that you prioritize within the community in a role, so to speak?
Yeah, so I come on board. I joined the Fordy Runs community just as a runner back in about 2019, and just loved everything about it. Loved the ethos, loved the idea of people coming together, meeting up, having the socials. Every time we go to big races, we all meet, and then we go to the pub afterwards. So I started to get more involved and spoke to Chris and said, look, want to be more involved. And I was helping him out with a lot more things. And as the club's got bigger, so more roles have sort of like naturally come together. So we've got a committee. I'm part of the running club committee. There's 10 of us on the committee. We've all got different roles. I look after all of the running club side of things, the satellite club side of things. So arranging new clubs coming together and arranging people there. We have people we have the sort of social welfare officers. We have social media people. We have charity fundraising. We have a thing people don't realise as well with Fordy Runs. We have a massive volunteer section as well. So we provide volunteers at so many big London Marathon. We provide volunteers for. So it's just sort of like try to cover everything, and everyone has different roles within it. But yeah, me myself personally, I look after all the satellites. But I've become very involved with. Obviously, I help out. I do quite a bit on the long run show. And within the community comes the Facebook side of things. I do a lot of posting on there because the satellite clubs are a big part of that as well. So yeah, that's sort of my role within the community.
Yeah. Have you ever thought about branching, or have you had requests to branch out internationally for some of the satellite clubs?
Yeah, we've got a gentleman who runs. So we also have a global run club because there's some people that want to be part of the Fordy Runs community, but they're not in the UK. So we have a global run club. And we design 4 sessions, and they go out on a Monday and a Wednesday. So wherever you are in the world, you can join our global run club. And that's the other thing I didn't mention before. Every single thing with Fordy Runs is free. There is no money involved at all. If you want to buy a kit and things like that, that's different. But there's no money involved with anything at all. If you want to become affiliated to England Athletics, then it's cost like 18 quid. But that's what they charge. Nothing to do with us. So yeah, everything we do is free. But yeah, so going back to Global Run Club, we provide 4 runs on a Monday and a Wednesday at 7 o'clock. And wherever you are in the world, you can be involved and do them. and you post your pictures, and we sort of get a collage of the people. We've actually got a gentleman in Queensland who actually participates a lot, and he wants to sort of get a satellite club in Queensland, because it doesn't really matter where the satellite clubs are, because you almost like post all the media stuff together, and people get to know each other, and they talk in these forums and in chat rooms. And we've got people in Dubai, loads of people all over America, quite a bit in Europe, but even the UK itself is not as spread as Australia. We know that, but we've got people down in Exeter that have never met people up in Newcastle. That's 600 miles away, whatever it is. But it doesn't really matter. We're still part of the same club. We're still part of the same community. It's brilliant.
Yeah, it sounds awesome.
So I was going to ask, one of the problems we have in Australia with run clubs and running groups is around insurances for injuries and things like that. How do you get around that side of things in the UK if it's free and there's no cost to anyone?
So we have, with our satellite clubs, we have different tiers. So if we have, so somebody may come forward, Tim, you might come forward and say, I really want to start a satellite club up in, I don't know, somewhere in Dorset, Bournemouth, just say. And we'll say, that's fine. We'll have a look at what qualifications you have to do that. If you have none, but you're just a good organised leader and you like to run, you want to get together, we have a tier 1 club, which is like a social club. So it's a social run where people get together. You're there under your own, you understand it's your own responsibility to be there, and we get together and have a social club. We also have a lot of what we do is eventually, once they get bigger, and we obviously supply them with first aid kits, and we do as much as we can to support them. And once they get a bit bigger, we start then to look at the club paying for the leader to do something called a LERF, which is a leadership in running fitness. And once you get that, then you get, naturally from England Athletics, you're insured to take a group up to about, I think it's 12 or 15 people. So what we try and do is push our satellite leaders to do that. So we've got about 40 satellite clubs at the moment. I think we've got there's about 23 of them, 23 of them that have got LERFs or curves when you go to another level as well, which is a coach. So we've got them as well, and they're a tier 2 club. So they're naturally insured. And with them ones, we do a bit more of a structured session rather than a social, just meet together and do a 5K sort of thing. Then our top tier 3, we have a coach sort of session, a level 3 one. We've only got a couple of them clubs where people like Chris would do like a proper, almost like one-on-one coaching session. So and obviously he's insured through EA with that as well. When we get together and we organise big events, we've got our own club's insurance, so that works. But yeah, when they're out in the individual, we just make it clear that when people first start, it's a social run. You're there for your own responsibility, and we help and provide support and making sure that everyone's always. At the moment, it's dark all the time over here, so we're making sure everyone's always got running lights and etc. But yeah, no, we're covered every way with it.
Yeah, which is the great segue to the last question. So the weather in England is completely different to what we experience here in Australia. And it was interesting just the other day on the podcast, you were talking about spring and autumn marathons and the training for where you prefer. And it's the complete reverse for us. So training for an early year marathon for us is just horrendous in the heat over the Christmas period. But winter is probably the one that's really challenging. Your days are short. There's a lot of darkness. It's cold. It's wet. It's miserable. How the hell do you find the motivation to get out and run in that sort of a environment?
Again, I think it goes back to what we spoke about earlier on about, I think it's the training plan. So sort of like through history, London Marathon has been always the biggest marathon in the UK. It's only the last 5 or 6 years where we've seen everyone traveling around the world, I feel. So everyone have always wanted to do London. London's in April. So a 16-week plan will always start beginning of January, straight after Christmas. So some people will always have that motivation of Christmas is done, I've eaten too much, I've drunk too much. That's it now, we're going to start a fresh year. So that's definitely a motivational factor. I think the other one is once you start a plan and you have that race 16 weeks away, you almost have to be sort of like methodic with it. And you have to think, I've got to do 3 sessions this week. I've got to go out. I've got to do this. And if you don't, you're probably not going to get to that race or not get to that race in the shape you want to be. So that's a high motivational factor. You are right, though. You're spot on about the weather. And at the moment, it's particularly bad. It's just been raining for like ages. And that's really horrible. And it's not nice to go out and that, especially when we're meeting as a satellite groups. Because you all meet and the whole idea is it's a social thing. And we all chat before and afterwards you might have to chat as well. But when it's raining like it is, it's difficult. But that is only for a few months a year. Once we start getting to March and April, we start seeing it becomes almost maybe better in your situation because our summers are nowhere like yours. So we don't have that heat. So we are able to train through the summer for an autumn, what we call an autumn marathon, in sort of September, October. We can train through the summer. It does get hot. We have to be a bit more sensible, but nothing like you guys. Obviously, you guys started training through the summer. I don't understand how you do that.
Well, Tony's training for Tokyo, as you know, which is in 8 weeks' time now. Tim and I are training for Boston, and that's in about 12 weeks' time. So Tim and I went for a run on Friday morning, and it was 31 degrees and 85% humidity. And that was at 5 o'clock in the morning with the sun beating down at you. So Tony's going through the same thing, and we have to go through and just run through it.
That was a cool day. We can train up to 35-degree heat.
Wow.
We get daylight from 4:30 in the morning through till about 7 o'clock at night. So it's a different way over here than what it is over there. I think over there you're getting daylight from about 8 o'clock in the morning through to about 4 or 5 o'clock in the afternoon.
Absolutely spot on. Exactly right. Yeah.
Yeah, and then it's just dark the whole time and wet and miserable.
It's amazing though what we put ourselves through for that little bit of thing, isn't it?
I know. But that was the thing when I come across the finish line in New York, I was sort of like really emotional, going up and getting the 6 star and put it around my neck, and just I felt myself welling up, and I was crying. I was really emotional, and afterwards I thought, this is absolutely ridiculous. The money you spent, the pain you've put yourself through, and all this, and you're crying. It's for a bit of metal. It's unbelievable, but
that medal represents all those hours of training, all those early morning starts. The things you've missed out on because of it. It represents so much, and that's why the emotions are there.
Well, that's what my wife said to me. It's like, next year, can we just sort of like go on normal holidays and go and see our friends? Every holiday becomes a run or a race, or we've got to train. So it's hard.
Yeah. Hayden, how do you look after your shoes when you're running in the wet all the time? I mean, Tim and Tara posted a video the other week, and they're jumping in puddles because we've had a little bit of rain, a fair bit of rain, to be honest, since Christmas here. But it's like the summer rain. It's like summer storms. And I know that when I ran Boston, it was a wet day, and it feels like my shoes were never the same. I ran in a pair of Brooks on that day, and it just feels like the shoes are tainted. It's almost like I can't wear them anymore. So how do you look after your shoes when you're running in the wet all the time?
Yeah, it's a good question. Most of ours, we have radiators here. I don't know if you guys even have radiators. Probably no need for them in Australia. No. So we have radiators in the house that can heat the whole house up. So literally I come home and we just put them underneath the radiator, and they crisps them up a little bit. But I do find a lot of the shoes I've been running in, they're fairly light. So my marathons, I've always run in Alpha Flies, the Nike Alpha Flies, and I find no matter what puddles I go in, whatever I run, within a minute, 2 minutes, they just dry out completely. They're really good for stuff like that.
The mesh uppers help a lot, don't they? They drain it out
massively. But yeah, as you said, any trail shoe wise, I do try to avoid, because we've got a lot of roads where we are. It's quite busy. I'm in London. So it's not as though like we turn the corner. I mean, we've got big fields of mud or anything like that. You're always going to get park runs that are like that. But when it comes to actually training runs, try to stick to the pavements and the roads. So they get naturally wet. We don't really have massive puddles and mud and that, especially not where I am in London.
All right, Hayden, it's been an absolute pleasure speaking with you. Just to conclude, we do what we call the final 6, the fast 6, which is a question for every star. It's a very quick question, and it's hopefully an even quicker answer. So are you ready to go?
I'm ready. Let's do it.
All right, let's do it. Okay, podcast or music?
Music.
Best running advice ever given to you?
Never give up.
What advice would you give to someone starting out?
Just believe in yourself. Absolutely believe in yourself.
Uphill or downhill?
Downhill.
Gels or blocks?
Gels.
And favorite shoes to run in?
Nike Alpha Flies.
Excellent.
You're not an uphill fan, hey?
No, definitely not. I think that's why New York got me. I'm not the best. I'm not the best on hills. So yeah, definitely go for a downhill over and up. But I've got dodgy knees as well, so the uphills don't help.
London's flat.
It is quite flat. To be fair, out of all the 6, it's only New York and Boston. The other 4 are pretty flat. So
yeah,
not too bad.
And the interesting thing about New York is it's all the overpasses that seem to be the ones you don't expect. You just think you're going over a bridge, and then all of a sudden you're going uphill. So,
well, it starts on that bridge, doesn't it? You suddenly first mile and a half, you're going up, and you're like, this is ridiculous. Honestly.
Bring it on. I'm looking forward to it in November.
You'll love it.
Absolutely.
I'd say one of my favourite things in New York was at the start line when they have the cannon that starts it off, and it's the most powerful thing you've ever felt, and it goes off and you literally feel yourself shaking, but that really helps the atmosphere. Then they start playing New York. And New York was special. It was really good.
Did you go over the bridge or in
Over.
Over? Yeah. So you're one of the lucky ones. So
was that lucky going over? Was it going up? Was that lucky?
I think so, because there's all sorts of stories about the urine drift if you're on the lower level. So there's always a hiccup between some of the majors. But Hayden, it's been absolute awesome speaking with you today. I know that our viewers and listeners will have taken quite a bit away. What are some of the links that you want to share about where people, if they want to follow you or if they want to follow the podcast, your podcast in the long run, what are some of the links that they can go to?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I'm on Instagram as Running with Hayden. The Long Run Show is the Long Run Show. If you just Google that on YouTube or Facebook and on Instagram, Long Run Show. And obviously, if anyone wants to get involved, no matter where you are in the world, in the Global Run Club, get signed up to the Fordy Runs running community and just get yourself involved, and you won't regret it.
Yeah, absolutely. It sounds.
Or just jump on an aeroplane, fly to London, turn up to Bushy Park Run on a Saturday morning, and you can meet Hayden there.
There's always a Fordy there as well. Always.
All right. Thanks so much, Hayden. And it's been, as I said, it's been really awesome speaking with you, and enjoy the rest of your Saturday night.
Thanks a lot, guys. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks, Hayden.
Thank you.
Well, team, how good was that? That was a great chat. I really enjoyed that. And what a lovely bloke Hayden is. I was so happy that he accepted our invite to come on the podcast, and he gave us so much conversation and discussion and good tips, and I just really enjoyed that. So quickly, let's start with you, Tara. What was the one key thing that you really enjoyed about that interview? Was there something that stood out for you?
Yeah, look, I really enjoyed hearing about how his running journey started, and it was very similar to Tim and mine, where we did park run, and then he sort of was in the same sort of position as us, and how far he's grown with his running journey and how far Tim and I have too. So it's I really like that park run community side of things and what they've actually grown from his, obviously the Fordy Runs part of it, but I like how he started his running journey the same as Tim and I.
Yeah, it's so similar, isn't it? It becomes very similar. What about you, Tim?
For me, I was actually quite impressed with how the whole Fordy Run community sort of started with Fordy sitting there in the corrals there at London Marathon, wondering, how do we make this better so that we're not all just standing around like zombies, in a paddock waiting for the start of the race? So I was quite amazed by that. It started with one man's anxiousness, and then obviously Hayden's been bought into that, and he sort of runs a lot of that side of it, the community as well. But really impressed with how that whole Fordy runs community actually works. Yeah, it's really good.
And it's a really good example of one person making a difference, isn't it? So, it's like what you guys do with your friends and family and people that connect with you and follow Team Alice. It's we can never lose sight of the impact that we can make. The big thing for me, Tara, was that, and I just really enjoyed hearing about how the hell do they get up when it's cold, wet, dark, and miserable. And I just, I just wanted to hear about that, because to me, I think the challenge is always similar. It's motivation, desire, I would really struggle to get out after work in the UK in winter and go for a run. I just it's cold, dark, wet. I just don't know how they do that. But then again, they don't know how we get up in the morning with the sun beating down at 35 degrees. So I guess what that showed is just how similar we all are. And our challenges are there. They're just different. So that was the bit that I really enjoyed. But
really
just a
comes
great
back
chat.
it really comes back to just the dedication of the runner and the mindset of a runner, doesn't it? That you just get up and you stick to the plan and you go for it.
Yeah, absolutely. And hopefully those people that are watching us can see that I've got my Fordy Runs community hat.
That's probably one of the only ones here in Australia, I would imagine. So you're doing well to have that on.
I still remember you got up me at the Gold Coast Marathon, Tim, because I've also got a long run, the Long Run Podcast T-shirt, and we just kicked off the Flying RuNR Podcast, and there were some choice words that I was promoting another podcast and not the one. But no, as you know, I just love that podcast. So coming to the end of the episode, and as we always come to the end of an episode, we've always got Tim's tip. And I think it's getting a bit of a cult following, so I'm not going to say any more now. It's like a mini podcast within a podcast. So Tim, what's your tip for the week?
The guru, apparently. But anyway.
Maybe it's just a mini podcast because it goes for so long, Tony. If you're not taking the piss out of him, I will.
All righty. My tip this week is plan the run and run the plan. Seems pretty straightforward, but by this, I mean, it can be quite overwhelming at times, particularly when you're in training blocks for a big event. It can be hard getting out of bed, as Tony's just said, and going the distance. And I know, particularly for Tara and I, when we get towards the end of our blocks and the distances start to get huge, that we really start to question, why are we doing this? And do we really need to run that far? Should we pull it up a little bit slower and go less distance? But regardless of all that, you have to recognize that the plan is the plan. You've set the plan for that training block to be able to get to what you want to get to. So you need to focus on the plan and just get the distance done. But in order to do that, you need to plan the run so that it happens. It's not as easy as just waking up in the morning and throwing your shoes on. You have to be prepared, lay flat your clothes the night before, know the conditions you're running in, be prepared for it. Like at compass runs that you do, Tony, you can break it down into chunks if it gets a bit too hard or overwhelming at times. You know, slow it down, walk a little bit, rest a little bit, run a little bit, jeff it out a little bit, or even like that compass run concept. So chunk it up a little bit, but also ultimately don't compare yourself with others. So run the plan, stick to the plan and run the plan is really my tip this week. It can be hard. We've got friends at the moment training for Boston. They're all over the weekend publishing their distances that they've been running lately. And some people getting a little bit worried that they're not running as far as other people. Comparison is the thief of joy. Definitely just stick to the plan. You know what the plan is. You've set it from the very beginning. Don't alter it. Don't change it. It will ultimately come undone later on for you. So yeah, that's my tip for the week.
Yeah, excellent advice. But also just one to think about is that you know, if a long run's a long run and your plan says to do it on a Saturday or a Sunday, and you've got something else that can't be changed on Sunday, just bring it forward or take it back, or, you know, so the plan needs to have some flexibility, as we know. So don't beat yourself up if you haven't done that 8K that you set out to, that your plan says you've got to do on a Wednesday. Do it on a Thursday if that's what's going to suit you and your life better. So
you can also break it up if you've only got time to do, say, 10Ks on the Sunday morning, but you're destined to do, or you know your plan says to do 20. If you've got the motivation, you can do the 10Ks on the Sunday morning and then another 10Ks in the Sunday afternoon or that Sunday night. It doesn't all have to be in the same block as well.
But yeah, you've got to treat the plan with respect. You can do that. You can move it a day or two either side, but it's about building the distance up each week and doing it in a gradual way. And if you start to miss it, or you reduce the distances, or you're comparing yourself to others and increasing the distance, it's not going to help you in the long run, and it could actually lead to injury or a bad result on race day.
And once again, always listen to your body. If your body can't keep up with that plan, adjust it to fit you, not somebody else. Because just because your coach is saying you can do it, if your body is getting injured and you are getting injured, there is no point to continue on. You need to adjust it to fit what you need to be able to do.
Excellent. So Tim's tip became Tim's tip, Tony's tip, and Tara's tip. So hurrah! That's
the experience of everyone. So
that's teamwork. Okay. Hey Tara, we've got a great episode next week. Tell us all about it, hey?
Absolutely. Hey, I'm really looking forward to this one. Trav is a good friend of ours now. We met him at the football, and he is actually the founder of Run the World. So Run the World is a virtual running map of not just Australia, but it's all around the world. So you can go of all runners of all different capabilities. So you can be a walker, you can be a runner, you can be a jogger, you can be a plotter. The only stipulation is that you have to be able to do this as on your feet and not as a bike. So in addition, through the there's apps, but there's an app that you can do. So in addition to that app, Trav has actually created a really, really positive running community, and there's some really cool merch as well that you can buy. So, and also part of your membership, you actually get a $25 gift voucher. So, but we will talk more about that next week. And it's good when you see other Run the World people out on the course, because they always give you a shout out. So, Trav has also run a number of marathons, including the London Marathon. So it'll be great to talk to him about his running journey as well. Can't wait to get him on for a chat.
Yeah.
It will be good. And you know him as Trav or Travis, but his full name is Travis Ireland.
Oh, sorry, yes.
From Run the World. So really excited about that chat. So, well, that's it for this episode. I really hope everyone has enjoyed it. As always, video is available at Spotify, YouTube. Audio is on all podcast platforms, but of course the big ones are Apple, Amazon, and Google. Remember, every step forward is a victory. Lace up, hit the road, and we'll catch you on our next episode. Until then, happy running.
Happy running. Bye.